Welcome to When the Smoke Clears. I am the recovery plug. I hope you guys are doing great today. And my day went pretty good today, man. How's it going? Again, thank you for joining me. Thank you for your donation of being here. If without further ado, if you don't mind, I'm going to ring us in and get this thing started. Okay? So here we go. Joe, indulge me in a moment of silence, please. Nam myo renge kyo, nam myo renge kyo, nam myo renge kyo. Eternal Buddha Shakyamuni, please guide us. Please bring these energies here. Let the energies of this, of what's out there, come to us. Let it ground us. Let it talk to us today. Let it reach those people who need to hear it. Let it reach us. Let it just guide us. Let the energies guide us. And yeah, so thank you. Alrighty. Well, how's it going, man? It's grab this thing over here. Is the microphone? How's it going? I hope you guys can hear me. Hope that. I've been really kind of dealing with the whole audio thing here, trying to get it to sound okay, I guess. I mean, so that we relay the message how we need to, right? But, I, like every episode, I contemplate, I sit, I think of what it is that I want to talk about, what it is that my feelings, my heart, my Buddha nature is telling me to talk about. And today, I want to talk to you about, I guess, a little bit of the word consistency, a little bit of the word community, Sangha, and Dharma, the practice, and what I'm going to do is, today's a really special day for me because today we had is my Spanish Lotus Sutra study class that I usually attend, and today was the last of the series of we closed it out today. You know what I mean? Which was the basic Buddhism, a basic Buddhist course that we did, and it was the first of its kind at the Buddhist temple that I go to with the Dharma Center that I attend and that I'm a member of, and it was really profound way to learn and to understand the Dharma, understand basic Buddhism when you can interpret it in a different language, and you see how beautiful that the concepts of Buddhism work in any cultural facet. You know what I'm saying? And so to be able to not only attend a Buddhist class in English, but also in Spanish, you get two different perspectives because you got just that much more of a Sangha, of a community giving their input. And when you get the input of many different people, because everybody's input is different, you know what I'm saying? That's the beauty of the practice of Buddhism, because the practice of Buddhism is dealing with the mind. You know what I mean? That's to me anyway, in my interpretation, that is the core teaching, is that it's allowing you to understand things differently, to get that capacity cap off of your mental thought process so that it is infinite, that is always waiting for the next teaching to come. You know what I'm saying? Because that's the reality of cause and effect. When something happens, it allows something else to happen. And then when you do this, when you study and you put the practice into your own life, it starts doing that. You know what I mean? It's a snowball effect that doesn't stop. And to me, that's a beautiful thing of tapping into the Buddha nature of you. You know what I'm saying? So it's really, I was just excited that we had a really beautiful get together today, and being excited for what's happening in the future. You know what I'm saying? And to see how your path is unraveling is one of the best parts, because when you're staying stuck in this cyclical world of samsara, the cyclical world of suffering of your daily life, and we stay stuck in it, and it seems like you get nowhere. You know what I'm saying? But when you involve a spiritual path, a path of spirituality, and whatever that is, for me, it just happens to be Buddhism at this point in time in my life. It just makes a whole lot more sense, and it gives you this. It gives you this clarity of being on the middle path, because in Buddhism, that's what we're on. We're on the middle path. We don't veer right or left to whatever. You know what I'm saying? And it's just like, if you're veering one way or the other, that means you're mentally gravitating to one concept or one understanding, or in a biased type of way, I guess. Maybe, you know what I'm saying? It could be like that, but it keeps you only viewing things one way. You know what I'm saying? So when you're on the middle path, you get to see the whole broad spectrum of everything. That's what's so beautiful about it. So it's just, when it's like that, then the mental capacity isn't capped. You know what I'm saying? Because when you're only viewing something one way, you're only viewing it that way. So that means your capacity to think about things and to bring them into your life is capped to that thing only. You know what I'm saying? So when you're on the middle path, now you're in this infinite way of living. You know what I mean? When you're in the infinite way of living, that means things come. The cause and effect keeps going. There's no stop to that. You know what I mean? How beautiful is that, to have to have that capacity of your mind being keyed up and polished, that it's going to be infinite. It keeps going. There's no stop to that. You know what I mean? The teachability in that is just beautiful, I think. You know what I'm saying? It really is. And so I want to, what I want to do today, in speaking of, in that way, and in the way of the consistency, the consistency of putting something new into your life, and not only learning it, but living it, and also putting in the community, the Sangha, to be a part of that, because we are people of indigenous reality, right? We're derived from an indigenous culture, and in that indigenous culture, you know that the indigenous is not meant to walk this earth alone. It's here to walk with the community. You depend on your tribe to manifest the next move of your life. You know what I'm saying? It's not a singular thing. It's a community, man. And it's, when you have that, now you have this wisdom and thought process of a lot of different people. And when you have that, you're not only bringing that in, but you're bringing the aura of their energy in. You know what I'm saying? So that's what makes a community and a Sangha community meaning Sangha, brighten up. Because you have all these illuminated beings being together, and when you get all this stuff together, it's just like getting a bunch of light bugs together and putting them in a jar, and you got 10, 20 light bugs in a jar. Now you have a lamp that'll illuminate the way to wherever you're going. You know what I'm saying? Versus if you just had one, it's going to get bright and it's going to dim down. Now you're in the dark. You don't know where to go until, again, it brightens up. And, you know, and that's the sporadic way of living a life if you're not doing it on a consistent basis. Living a life of spirituality and living a life in that goodness of you, the Buddha nature of you, that divine sense of you. You know what I'm saying? When you're just doing it on Sunday, you're like that. You're running around with this jar with this little light bug lighting your way, and he's only getting bright every so often. You know what I'm saying? But when you have a lot of them in the jar, then it lights up and it stays lit. That's the community. When you involve yourself in that makes you stay lit. That charges you up to go through the rest of your week lit up. You know what I'm saying? And it allows you to keep the Dharma going, the study going, that capacity of you stays lifted off, and it's infinite. You know what I mean? So what I want to do is there's a story in the Threefold Lotus Sutra that's I believe it's chapter 8, and it's the story of the gem, and it's and I want to give you. I'm going to read the story of. It's very short, and it's Let me put my glasses on. Give me just a second. Okay. And it's about the Buddhahood. I mean the assurance of Buddhahood given to the 500 disciples by the Buddha. So these people, the disciples are these Shravakas that are watching the Buddha give assurance to all these other Prayateka Buddhas and Shravakas, letting them know that you too will become a Buddha. He's giving them this assurance, so they're getting it directly from the horse's mouth, right? They're getting this beautiful assurance that they too will become Buddha, and which is a beautiful thing. You know what I'm saying? So they will too walk this earth like that, I believe, and that's what this story is talking about. It's talking about how you can get blinded by the world of samsara, the world of suffering, and not see that you have that capacity, you have that Buddha nature in you. It's always been there. It just had been covered up. You know what I'm saying? So that's what this story is talking about, and it's a parable, right? So I'm going to go ahead and read the interpretation of that story by Reverend Nikkyo Nawano in his book of Buddhism for Today, and it's his interpretation of the parable of the gem in the robe, and which is right down the line of what we're talking about here. You know what I'm saying? Right down the line of the consistency of learning, living the Dharma, and expounding the Dharma. You know what I mean? So I'm going to go ahead and read it, and then I'll just kind of get into a discussion a little bit about it and kind of put my own twist on it and my own personal experiences with the story and how I can relate to it in my own personal life. So here we go. It goes like this. The parable of the gem and the robe. The Arhats begin. A man went to a close friend's house for a visit, where he was treated to dinner, got drunk, and fell asleep. Meanwhile, his friend had to leave suddenly on business. Not wanting to disturb the man's sleep, the friend sewed a priceless gem into the lining of the man's robe as a gift, because he knew that in recent years his friends had sunken into poverty. Lying there drunk, the man was completely unaware of this. After waking up, he saw that his close friend was gone, so he departed and returned to his life of poverty, eventually ending up as a vagabond wandering in another country. He underwent many hardships. While trying to secure food and clothing for himself, he felt satisfied with what little income he could obtain. After a considerable time had gone by, the man happened to run into his old friend on the road. The friend was shocked by the man's shabby appearance and said, "How is it that you are still struggling for food and clothing? How foolish are you? I wanted you to be able to have a peaceful and easy, satisfying your 5 desires as you wish. So on such and such day I sewed a priceless jewel into the lining of the of your robe. It must still be there now, because you haven't noticed it. You needlessly toiled in labor and suffered in misery just to stay alive. Go now and sell that jewel so that you can buy whatever you need. You will be able to live totally free from all poverty and want." After finishing this parable, Ajanta Kaudinya and the other Shravakas expressed their heartfelt gratitude to the Buddha. The Buddha is like the man's close friend. When the Buddha was still a bodhisattva, he taught all of us as that, because everyone possesses this priceless jewel, the Buddha nature. We are all capable of awakening through practice, but we drifted off to sleep soon forgot about it. And for this reason, we were unaware of it. When we attained the awakening of Arhat, we mistakenly supposed that just eliminating our defilements was true extinguishment. The supreme awakening, but the aspiration to seek awakening of Buddha nature, of Buddha, supreme perfect awakening, remained hidden in depths of our own mind. Somehow we sensed that we were lacking something. Just now, the Buddha has awakened us. Now, we know that we are really bodhisattvas who have the possibility of eventually becoming Buddhas by cultivating bodhisattva practice and doing our best for people of the world. For this reason, we are filled with great joy because we have gained something rare and precious that we never possessed before. Now, this is a really beautiful story, I think. It's a really beautiful parable because it's giving you this scene of this person in despair, this person in poverty, this person living with the suffering of life. You know what I mean? Lands at his friend's house, and he's asleep. The friend obviously is showing compassion and mindfulness and hospitality to the friend, and even decides that he's got to go away on business all of a sudden and trusts his friend is in his own home. You know what I'm saying? And that is the Buddha nature, the Bodhisattva at work. He's alleviating the suffering of his buddy. You know what I mean? And even goes as far as to not wanting to wake him up. He's so compassionate toward his friends. Like, oh no, he's sleeping, it's peaceful. Let me just sew this jewel into his robe so that he has something. It's worth a lot of money. He's going to be able to get out of poverty. He's going to be able to, sell it and get him a home and this gem is that valuable, right? That he's gonna be able to get off his feet and live comfortably of the 5 sense desires, right? because he knows that that's what his friend wants, and he's being compassionate that he's doing this for the friend. And the friend wakes up and sees that his friend's gone, and decides that he leaves. He leaves the house and locks up probably, and takes off and wanders off and winds up in another country, still desolate, is still living a life of poverty and just scrounging up, and not only that, but doing it so consistently that he mentally is satisfied with where he's at. You know what I'm saying? He mentally stays stuck in the cyclical sense of samsara, of suffering, that he decides mentally that this is all that's going to happen. The capacity of his mental thought process is capped there. You know what I mean? Because he doesn't see past, beyond this. So he's satisfied in the misery. You know what I'm saying? And I personally can, I really resonate with this story, because I could remember a point in time in my life when I wound up in a situation where the suffering was just so extreme that I didn't have a home, I didn't have possessions or anything like that. I wound up homeless, and not only that, but I wound up homeless and addicted to drugs, right? The addiction was my comfort. And that misery being there on a consistent basis, my mental capacity was just like that, like the friend, you know what I mean? That decided that I'm comfortable here. You know what I mean? This is where I end up. You know what I mean? This is you know, I gave it a shot. I didn't make it, and you know, this is where I wind up, and I'm good with it. You know what I mean? I can live here. I'm still alive. I'm still, you know, I deal with suffering every day, and I'm scrounging up to find another meal, to find another place to stay, but all the meanwhile, the only thing that's alleviating my suffering and my capacity of mental thought process is to use some more drugs, and I can understand that. And just like the friend who one day sees his friend again that sewed the jewel in his robe, and the friend's like, man, what happened? You know what I mean? I'm disappointed that you're still here. I mean, I gave you this deal. Did you not? What did you do? You know what I mean? And the guy's like, has no idea what he's talking about. And so until the friend shows him and tells him, dude, I hooked you up. You know what I mean? And the guy finally, he realizes it. And in that instant, it's like his Buddha nature woke up. That was dormant. Had always been there. That part of him had always been there, but it was just diluted with all of this suffering that he was going through, that he never saw it. You know what I'm saying? He, in a sense, gave up the hope, and he drowned in the misery until his friend reached down there and picked him up and said, dude, here it is right here. And showed him that he still had the Buddha nature in him, that he still had that divine sense of goodness in him, that he could get out of the misery, right? And not only that, but to get yourself back on track, back onto the middle way, because he, for a long time, was one-minded, stayed in this suffering, and he couldn't get out of it. You know what I mean? He was so deluded in his mind that everything was about the suffering, until his friend pulled him out and brought him up to the middle road where he could now see the broad spectrum of everything. It's like, wow, I always had that in me. It's always been there. And it's always been there. And you know that it's always been there because of that seed that your friend planted in you, again, brought you out. You know what I'm saying? How that's that karmic cyclical cycle of the well, that's the cycle of the cause and effect of things. You know what I mean? And I can remember being like that. You know what I mean? I mean, for a long time, I can remember always living a good life, thinking that, my life was great. You know what I mean? Having a business and having a home and having multiple vehicles and having a big bank account and all of that stuff. You know what I'm saying? And thinking that everything was fine. And then when the suffering came about, I diverted from the things that had gotten me to where I was, and that was the consistency of being a spiritual person, of tapping into that divine energy, is what I like to call it. You know what I'm saying? And whatever that is for you, it's okay. You know what I mean? It doesn't mean that one is better than the other, or your energy is better than mine. No, it's all one and the same. You know what I'm saying? It's just the matter of the consistency of tapping into it and putting it into practice in your daily life, in your everyday grind. You know what I mean? And for a lot of us, I know for myself, I got to this point in my life where everything was going fine, and I thought, okay, I'm doing it my way. And the further and further I got away from that spiritual connection, and eventually wound up where I wound up. You know what I'm saying? But also, just like the friend who his friend came back again in his life and brought him out, so too was my life like that. You know what I mean? I could remember that I again got the opportunity to land into a treatment center. And in that treatment center, again, was the foundation wake-up call, I guess, is that this bucket of water got poured on me once more and allowed me to see that I still had that Buddha nature in me, and I always had it. I just let the suffering take precedence in my life. And I know that today, because I involve myself and put the practice and in my life in a consistent way, I stay consistent, just like the class that I was doing in my Spanish Buddhist class. You know what I mean? I can just a whole year of doing it. To me, it is just awesome. Like the consistency of me keeping that in my life has been not only that particular class, but also the class that I did in English. You know, both. I was doing the Spanish and the English class. And then not only that, but doing the practice on a consistent basis on my own, and the things that I do on my own away from the Dharma Center is what's really, to me, that cause and effect of the Buddha nature of the Dharma, of the Dharma and the community that allows you to stay motivated, allows you to stay teachable, allows you to want to seek more. That's the domino effect. That's that infinite capacity of you that you start seeing things in that way. And I'm just grateful that I'm able to do that, because if you would have caught me 4 or 5 years ago deep in the addiction, there's no way that at that particular moment in time in my life, my mental capacity was limited to the suffering. You know what I'm saying? I was content with being there. I started feeling like, okay, well, I'm satisfied Just as long as I got another day, with a roof over my head and a little bit of this or that to alleviate the suffering, then I'm fine. And I lived like that for many years, and I'm just grateful that I was able to again tap into this spiritual energy. And it started because I landed in a recovery center. You know what I'm saying? And that cultivated that seed in me to discover new things, to see things in a different light, in a different lens, a different way. And when you can do that, that is, there's no end to that. You know what I mean? There's no end to that, even though it's a struggle in the beginning, because it is. You know what I mean? I wouldn't sit here and give you this story of it not being a hard thing to do, because it's extremely difficult. You know what I mean? It's not something that is easy to attain, but it is attainable. You know what I'm saying? And the thing is, it's the consistency. To me, that's the heart of a spiritual practice. That's the heart of a Dharma practice. That's the groundedness. That's the heart of a recovery practice. You can't have none of that stuff if you don't have a consistency at indulging in it, at putting it into your own life. And that's practicing, that's reciting, that's reading, that's learning, that's listening, that's meditating, that's putting the boots on and walking the walk. Actually getting down and dirty, and you're gonna have to dig the trenches. You're gonna have to get dirty. And because the only way to relieve the suffering is to get involved with the suffering. You have the answer to your suffering, to anybody's suffering, is in the suffering. You know what I mean? And I've always found that to be the true deal, man. That it didn't matter what I was going through. The answer to my problems were in my problems. Because only you know what it is that got you to the problem, what's keeping you in the problem, and how to get out of the problem. You know what I mean? But we get deluded, we get sidetracked a lot, and we let the problem dictate how we think. The problem that when we do that, we start saying things like, we blame other people, we blame other things, we everything is always something else's fault, not ours. You know what I mean? Or I can't do this because of this, and that. You know what I mean? That's just the mental capacity of how you think, of what the problem has brought you. That is just a replica of the problem. You know what I mean? The cause and effect of the problem is that it starts remapping your thought process to be compatible with the suffering only. You know what I mean? And not until you decide that there's a different way and you start putting a consistent spiritual practice into your life, a consistent practice of involving yourself with a Sangha and letting the Sangha help you, because as part of the tribe, we are all part of the tribe, every human being in the world, and the tribe is there to help you. You know what I mean? And I believe the only way out is through your consistency and through the tribe. You know what I mean? Because you can be consistent all you want, but if you're not getting help from anybody else, then you're staying in that little bubble of you, which can change at any moment given in time. You know what I'm saying? That to me is the cool thing is that I could see the layers shedding off. I could see the consistency, death, and rebirth of a new person every single day. You know what I mean? And that's Buddhism. Buddhism is that. It's the birth and death of a mental capacity on the daily. You know what I'm saying? And the more you do this, the more you become this bodhisattva type of person. And being led by that Buddha nature of you. You know what I mean? When you're connected to that energy of your energy, that's connected to that energy of that divine sense, you know what I mean, of the universe, of whatever you want to call it. There's, I like to think of it as as I like to take Greg Braden's term of the divine matrix that's out there. You can't see it, but you know it's there. You know what I'm saying? Every spiritual person, every spiritual, religious, whatever, they talk. They try to communicate with this presence of this thing that they can't see. You know what I'm saying? And that's the divine matrix. That's that energy. That's that thing that only you can tap into it through your own specific code or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Because only you can tap into that energy because you have the only key that fits your code. You know what I'm saying? And that's what brings, and when you tap into it, then it starts leading you. Wherever you move, it moves. And the more that you do it, the more consistent, the stronger the energy gets. That's the beautiful thing. That's the power of that energy. You know what I'm saying? Because when you have that stored energy, it turns into kinetic energy. It turns into energy of action, which allows you to want to share and spread what has helped you. That's why it's so beautiful and it works so well with World of Recovery to me. And that's what has brought me to where I'm at today, is by allowing the energy and of the practice of the Dharma, the practice of Buddhism, has brought me to this place where I'm at today, which is, I'm really thankful and grateful because it just makes me feel like I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. Like, it's, I don't know, it's hard to explain, but it's just this thing that you feel that is there, that's always there to remind you. And a lot of people ask me why I wear beads and mandala beads and stuff. And I wear them because I adopted something that I heard from somebody in my Sangha. And when I say my Sangha, it's anybody who practices Buddhism, spirituality, anything like that. You're part of my Sangha because I'm learning from you. And that's any individual in this universe. You know what I'm saying? We're all part of one and the same tribe. So when I hear something from somebody and I can use that in my own life, that's the Dharma at work. You know what I'm saying? That's the Bodhisattva at work. And I heard this Bodhisattva once say that his mandala is like his shadow. That it's the consistent reminder of what to do. You know what I'm saying? The consistent reminder of what to do and then what not to do. So that's why I wear them, because it's a consistent reminder that I'm walking a spiritual path. That every single action of my life has to do with my spiritual path and how I can help somebody else walk that same path at their capacity. You know what I mean? And that to me is practicing. That's to me helping. That's doing service work to me and to help alleviate the suffering of somebody else. That's the Bodhisattva way. You know what I mean? And that's why I do these videos, that, in hope that I help somebody else in that way. You know what I mean? Buddha himself said that, those who recite, copy, read, and spread the Dharma will eventually be a Buddha. You know what I'm saying? And to have that consistency and that assurance, to me, is just the motivator. That's all the motivation I need. You know what I'm saying? Because just like these Shravakas in this story, who were already enlightened, they already were enlightened. They had already reached nirvana and thought that this was it, that we're here. That's why they were like stunned when the Buddha said, no, there's only one vehicle and this is it. And then they came wanting the assurance to say, hey, I want to be that too. Please, I understand, I believe you, I'm living, I want to live and practice this way and do what I need to do. But having the assurance is just like putting the cherry on top. You know what I'm saying? It's just like you telling your kid to do something, and your kid is kind of hesitant until he gets the assurance of daddy or mama, and then he feels liberated that, oh wow, I can do this now. You have this. If you ever done anything and you're just like, you kind of do it in secret maybe, or not all the way because you don't, but not until somebody tells you, gives you that affirmation, that assurance that, hey, you can do this. Then you just feel like, wow, all this stuff is just, lifted off my shoulders and I can move now. I can do this. It's like that. You know what I'm saying? And so that's why I feel so comfortable talking about stuff and giving my experience and giving you my interpretations of how I see things and how I learn it, because that's how I'm seeing it at my capacity. And hopefully that my interpretations can help somebody else at their level. You know what I'm saying? Because the Buddha said that the Dharma is going to meet you. The teachings of the Dharma will meet you at your capacity. You know what I mean? I believe that wholeheartedly, because it has met me at mine throughout my life of addiction and recovery, and the consistency has been one of the things that I'll be forever grateful for, because I see my life no other way, and this is just a beautiful thing, because I would never want to be back in the suffering of the life that I used to live. And I'm just grateful. It's not that I don't suffer today, because I still do. You know what I mean? I still deal with every emotion and everything that has happened to me in my life. I still deal with the addiction. I still have to deal with the mental stuff and that kind of stuff that I get from the addiction, from trauma, from childhood trauma, from depression, from anxiety, from grief. All of those things still affect me, but I can see them in a different way now. I don't see them in a left or right way. I see them through the middle way. And when you can see it through the middle way, you're going to find yourself seeing things so profound and so, I don't know, it's just a different way of seeing that. That it's not the forever thing. You know what I'm saying? Because when you're stuck on one way or the other, it seems like forever. It gives you that sense of, man, it's always going to be like this. And when you're on the middle path, man, that way of impermanence really comes to light, and you know that things don't last forever. Everything is of impermanence in the way we live in this world. And that's alleviating the suffering. You know what I mean? That's bringing out that Buddha nature in you, so that you can, in turn share that with somebody, so that they can see it the same way and practice it the same way, in whatever capacity that they need to do it for their life, because their frequency of energy is their own. And the only way that they can tap into it is if they get some watering in their seed. You know what I mean? And you could be the water for somebody. You know what I mean? So, yeah. So I'm grateful that that you let me share this story with you today. I'm blessed. I'm glad that I got to get on the video today to share a message, and hopefully that it reaches somebody, and hopefully that it helps somebody. But at this time, man, if you'd please just give me a thumbs up, go subscribe, and share the channel. I'd greatly appreciate it. And it's the only way to keep to keep helping, to keep the service work going, and to help somebody else is by sharing messages like this. You know what I mean? So again, please, I greatly appreciate you guys being here. I thank you for your donation. Really, thank you. I guess before we ring out, if you could just indulge me in a couple of deep breaths, and I'll ring us out, and we'll call it a day. So here we go. Let me put this down. Okay, if you could just take a brief, deep breath in. Hold it. Let it out. Deep breathe in again, and just think about all the things that you're going through. And just know that they are all of impermanence. Let it out. One more time. Nothing lasts forever. Let it out. And just with the consistency of staying on a spiritual path, allowing your community, your Sangha, to help you in any way, shape, or form, to take that little bit of suffering away from you so that you don't have to carry it. And allow the practice, the consistent practice of the Dharma, of whatever spiritual path you're on, let that consistent practice take a little bit of that suffering away, and little by little chipping it away, so that one day you walk in the Buddha nature, that lightness walk of you. Thank you for letting me share a message with you. Thank you for letting me share a story with you. Thank you for being part of my spiritual path today. Alrighty, I'm going to ring this out now. Nam myo renge kyo, nam myo renge kyo, nam myo renge kyo. Eternal Buddha, thank you for guiding us. Thank you all for guiding each other. May you all have a blessed day. Thank you all. Thank you. I am the Recovery Plug.